From returning sensations upsetting certain members of the all-elite dressing room, to monstrous performers learning the hard way that Twitter isn't always the answer. These are those wrestlers who haven't been in the habit of making locker room pals of late. Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestlers who have locker room heat right now. Number 10, Santana. While he'd no doubt prefer to be throwing down in between the squared circle right about now, Santana's enforced absence from AEW may actually be a blessing in disguise. In the time that followed the proud and powerful star's significant knee injury during June's Blood and Guts war, there were a few rumblings of dissension between the former Inner Circle tag unit. Longtime pal Conan would even admit during the Keeping It 100 podcast in July that they are not on good terms. It doesn't seem as though things have cooled off behind the scenes in the time since Santana's disappearance from All Elite television either, with Conan also adding last month that things got so heated between Santana and Ortiz that Eddie Kingston had to step in to the point where both he and the injured star almost got physical. Santana eventually returning to the AEW locker room now appears to be increasingly unlikely, with Conan again adding that he could see the P&P man leaving the promotion at the end of his current deal due to wanting more. So unless things drastically change in the coming months, fans may have actually seen the last of this proud and powerful pair together. What a shame. Number 9, Shane McMahon. The departure of now former WWE chairman Vince McMahon earlier this year may have seemingly hinted at the possibility of Shane McMahon somehow making yet another unlikely return sooner rather than later. But despite it being Vinnie Mac himself who reportedly declared that his son would never get another pop in this company as long as I'm around, it doesn't look like Shane's chances of making his presence known in WWE have improved in any way since his father's exit in disgrace in July. According to PW Torch's Wade Keller, there is still a substantial divide between Shane and now WWE co-CEO Stephanie McMahon, with it being stated that fans shouldn't expect the controversial figure to appear on WWE programming anytime soon, unless he just, goes rogue and just shows up at a show. That, combined with the star's unprofessional behavior during the booking of this year's Royal Rumble, and the former boss's reaction being extreme but justified in the eyes of some, points to Shane not exactly being all that welcome backstage under the new WWE regime. The fact he was said to have pissed off a certain beast incarnate too doesn't exactly aid his chances of a headline-snatching return either. Number 8, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Full Gear 2022 was quite the night for AEW's resident jungle pillar. After opening the show with a gritty battle with his one-time dino pal Luchasaurus inside of a steel cage, Jack Perry found himself at the center of an unexpected Twitter storm of sorts, with the star eventually revealing that the gear he wore on the night of the event was heavily inspired by Shawn Michaels' Bad Blood 1997 Hell in a Cell bout attire. Austin Gunn took to social media to post a photo of himself and brother Colton wearing similarly HBK-inspired outfits with the comment of "Kid wants to be a gun so bad." Jungle Boy would then sharply quip back by noting how he prefers being booked on the pay-per-views, only for Colton to respond with an eye-catching shot from the hip of "I guess if we changed with the books and stayed up until 6 AM with the boss, we could get a spot too." Ouch. Just when Tony Khan thought he'd managed to somewhat suppress the seemingly never-ending all-elite tension backstage, it looks as though Colton's since-deleted retort has reignited the idea of all still not being fully well behind the scenes at present. Number 7, Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara is either the most intelligent heel worker of the lot, or a star who simply cannot help but genuinely rub folks up the wrong way. Hot on the heels of provoking Eddie Kingston into a backstage altercation in August through commenting on the Mad King's physique in a promo, Guevara once again ended up in the thick of backstage trouble in October, and while his beef with Kingston looks to have been very much settled, the same cannot be said for Sammy's Andrade El Idolo heat. After Andrade took aim at the JAS star for complaining about him hitting Guevara too hard in a match, the former TNT champion fired back on Twitter, claiming Andrade would be jobless if it wasn't for his dad-in-law, and that he should go back to WWE. And by the time the dust settled on the eventual locker room fight that would precede the next edition of Dynamite, Andrade was sent home on the back of being seen as the aggressor in the situation. Either way though, it seems that this specific beef is still simmering away, with Andrade now set for a further spell on the sidelines due to a pectoral tear. Maybe time will heal more than one wound on this occasion, eh? Number 6, Andrade El Idolo. Oh, maybe not. Andrade El Idolo choosing to take an issue public that could have been likely settled behind the scenes doesn't appear to have been an accident. As reported by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the star is very much trying to get fired, we all know that, and his decision to let let loose at Guevara during an interview and ultimately on Twitter was said to have pissed off some of the key talents behind the scenes, with it once again being noted in The Observer that many backstage had already criticised Sammy Guevara for airing his frustrations online for all to see. It was said that said talents were even more brassed off with the one-time WWE performer due to the timing of this happening, Andrade being fully aware of it, and how this made the company look to the public. And since his controversial actions in the lead up to being sent home from AEW TV, the former NXT champion hasn't exactly been shy about teasing an exit from Tony Khan's promotion either, with these hints at wanting away from the land of All Elite likely not doing much to repair his already somewhat fractured relationship with the AEW locker room at present. Number 5, the Young Bucks. Two AEW stars who have regularly found themselves at the center of the wrong sort of attention of late also just so happen to hold the title of EVP. And while many may have been quick to rush to the sides of the Young Bucks in the immediate aftermath of the infamous brawl-out altercation, comments spanning back a while before said CM Punk skirmish hint at some folks probably still not being all in on the Elite members. In particular, Dax Harwood's response in August of "when you decide to get two sides of a story, then speak on it" to Dave Meltzer's Twitter reply to a fan on FTR apparently being buried by Matt and Nick hinted at the 7-star unit not being all too happy with the influential duo. And despite the Bucks being generally well liked by most within the AEW locker room, it remains likely that FTR aren't the pair's biggest fans at this current moment in time, with a once gripping potential All the Marbles tag team encounter at All Out being dropped in favour of a trios title passion project. And you know, FTR very much finding themselves on Team Punk right about now. Number 4, Kenny Omega. Another Elite performer who hasn't exactly had a quiet 2022, despite barely being active in the ring for the majority of it. Kenny Omega's All Elite comeback didn't get off to the greatest of starts back in April, in what appeared to be an attempt to fire up the roster amidst allegations of contract tampering, backstage drama, and much more causing chaos behind the scenes. The cleaner was said to have unleashed some tough love that some ultimately felt was heavy-handed. Omega's statement of how he would only hire 8 out of 10 of the folks on the roster in particular was said to have rubbed certain figures up the wrong way during the August 24th meeting. Now, it is worth noting how some interpreted this line as a blatant joke, designed to poke fun at longtime rival Will Ospreay in attendance, but others in the room definitely took the shot as a serious one and weren't best pleased with Kenny's comments. And with the EVP swiftly finding himself being suspended for his part in the brawl-out chaos not long after his hit-and-miss attempts at boosting morale, it's still uncertain whether some corners of the locker room are fully on side with the cleaner after his pretty harsh talent meeting speech. Number 3, Thunder Rosa. While the now former AEW Women's World Champion hasn't actually been present on AEW programming since August, that doesn't mean that the heat between Thunder Rosa and certain sections of the promotion's women's division has died down in the slightest. It was well documented how earlier this year La Mera Mera had clashed heads with the likes of Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter backstage on numerous occasions. Fightful reported how Rosa's heat with Baker stretched back over a year, while her issues with the now reigning women's champion Hayter stemmed from her breaking the Brit's nose in a match recently. In both cases, this specific heat has been largely centered around how stiff Rosa is said to be in between the ropes, and this particular behind-the-scenes tension hasn't exactly subsided in the time since Rosa was forced to step away from the All Elite spotlight due to injury either, with PW Torch's Wade Keller reporting just last month that the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker thing is not solved. Will the Doctor and her longtime rival be able to coexist if/when Rosa finally makes her All Elite return, or will this high-profile heat continue burning on throughout 2023? Only time will tell. Number 2, CM Punk. CM Punk's blasting of AEW's EVPs both verbally and physically, along with taking aim at Hangman Page, Colt Cabana, and the rest of the effing children he was working with post All Out 2022 hasn't done him that many favors in terms of overall locker room popularity. Fancy that. Again, Punk likely definitely still has his supporters, with FTR still no doubt flying the CM flag. But as reported by Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter last month, a whole host of top AEW stars, including Chris Jericho, was saying that they wouldn't work with him. The champion would even reportedly go as far as to label the Chip Magnet as a locker room cancer in the immediate wake of Brawl Out 2. This, along with another AEW top star openly telling The Observer that his value on screen isn't 1% worth the hassle and black cloud he causes backstage, all point to a far from certain future for the icon going forward. That being said, with the Elite recently throwing more than a few Punk hints into the mix on AEW programming lately, maybe the All Elite locker room hasn't actually seen the last of this controversial legend after all. Imagine that twist. Number 1. Braun Strowman. In what likely acted as the most recent case of a foolish performer being punished on air for being a bit of a tit online, Braun Strowman falling to Ricochet on a recent edition of SmackDown didn't come as much of a surprise to those who had taken in reports of the monstrous star generating a sizable amount of backstage heat lately, with the former Universal Champion pissing off some of his own colleagues and other big names in the industry with his recent flippy flipper burying on Twitter. Fightful would eventually reveal that social media brawn had led to some very real heat being sent the returning star's way. Sure enough, said ill-advised tweets ultimately wound up being infused into that aforementioned Ricochet SmackDown World Cup semi-final showing, with the proud flippy flipper referencing the comments in the lead-up and even besting the monster of all monsters with an Imperium assist 1 week later. And on top of picking up his first WWE L since returning in September, Braun also found himself being publicly blasted by fellow social media menace Baron Corbin too, with the longtime heel claiming Strowman was full of crap when nudged on his online antics. With all that in mind, perhaps it'd be wise for this supposed babyface to keep his colossal thumbs away from the Twitterverse for a month or two. Just a thought. And that's our list of any other wrestlers who have locker room heat right now. Let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're there. Also, if this kind of thing is your bag, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I have been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you as always for clicking on this fantastic video today. Hopefully I'll see your faces very, very soon, but hey, in the meantime, just be good to yourself. You're alright.